In the heart of Texas, where the dirt clings to worn boots and old stories, lives Joe Wainwright. Once a rodeo legend, his days of taming wild bulls are behind him. Now, he spends his time alone on his ranch, living with the weight of memories, especially of Rose, his late wife. This story, Joe's last ride, really begins when something terrible happens. His grandson Cody is rushed to the hospital after getting hit in the head by a baseball. What first seemed like just a concussion turns out to be something far worse. Doctors find a tumor in Cody's brain. The news hits the family like a punch to the gut. Joe and his daughter Sally are told Cody needs urgent surgery, but the operation comes with terrifying risks. He could lose the ability to speak, move, or even function normally again. As if that weren't enough, their insurance only covers about 40% of the cost. That leaves them with a mountain of debt, anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000. At the hospital, as the administrator explains all this, Joe calmly says,
"We can pay for it."
"We can pay for it." But he's bluffing. Back home, reality hits hard. He's broke, drowning in mortgage debt, and has no way to come up with that kind of money. Then, a wild idea comes to him. Joe hears about the PBR Legends Championship in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a bull riding competition with a grand prize of $750,000, just enough to cover Cody's treatment. But there's a catch. Joe hasn't ridden in 15 years. He's in his 50s now, and his body's beaten up. He's still got a steel rod in his neck from a bad fall years ago. Even so, he knows he has no choice. He has to try. Joe reaches out to Charlie Williams, an old friend and former bullfighter, the guy who used to step between riders and angry bulls. When Joe tells him the plan, Charlie thinks it's nuts. He reminds Joe what happened last time he rode, a crash that left him in bed for months, hooked on painkillers, with his daughter caring for him night and day. But Joe isn't asking for sympathy. He just wants one more chance to ride. Charlie sees the pain in his eyes and finally agrees to help. He knows Joe wouldn't ask unless it really mattered. When Sally finds out, she's furious. She still remembers what it was like nursing her father back to life. She missed her prom, stayed up all night hearing him scream in pain. "I remember every second," she tells him. "You're not getting back on that bull." But Joe can't walk away. Cody's life is on the line. Joe and Charlie hit the road to Tulsa, but this trip isn't just about bulls or prize money. It's a journey between two old friends, a chance to heal old wounds, to talk about things they never said. At one point, Charlie shows Joe a video from his wedding to Rose. Watching it, Joe can't hold back the tears. These two men, one white, one black, share more than just friendship. They've survived the rodeo together, leaned on each other through fear and pain. Once they arrive in Tulsa, a new problem shows up. Joe technically isn't allowed to compete. He never responded to the invitation. They track down Jimmy Mack, the event organizer. Years ago, Joe did him a favor, so he asks Jimmy to return it. Jimmy finally agrees, but there are conditions: no fighting, no drinking, and Joe has to sign a waiver and sit for interviews. Joe agrees. When the competition begins, the years Joe's carried start to show. The younger guys, especially reigning champ Billy Hamilton, see Joe as a joke, just an old man chasing the past. His first ride scores an 85. Decent, but not enough. Worse, he gets trampled, his knee takes a bad hit. Meanwhile, back in Dallas, Cody undergoes surgery, but doctors can't remove the entire tumor. A second surgery is scheduled, and it's even riskier than the first. Sally calls Joe with the update. He listens quietly, more determined than ever. Even with bruised ribs and a battered knee, Joe won't quit. A doctor warns him he's got no feeling in one leg. Joe shrugs. "The nerve's been dead for years. Tape me up, doc," he says. In round 2, Joe draws a tough bull, but he stays on for the full 8 seconds. He scores 88.5, putting him at the top of the leaderboard. Suddenly, the crowd is paying attention. So are the other riders. Even Billy Hamilton starts to see Joe as real competition. Tensions heat up when Billy confronts Joe in the locker room. Words turn to fists, and the scuffle nearly gets Joe disqualified. Charlie steps in and explains everything to Jimmy Mack, why Joe's really here. It's not for glory, it's for his grandson. And for Rose. She died from the same kind of brain tumor. Jimmy listens, and softens. He arranges for Joe to fly home to see Cody before the second surgery. At the hospital, Joe and Sally finally share a quiet moment. She breaks down, realizing she's been carrying blame and anger for too long. "I've spent so much time blaming you for what I didn't get to do, for who I never became," she tells him. "But that's not fair." Joe nods, finally letting the past catch up to him. He owns up to the way he dragged Sally and her mother from town to town for the sake of his rodeo career. And when her mom passed, Sally had to step in and care for him, without ever complaining. As they talk, they both remember a moment from those dark days. Joe, drugged up from the pain after his injury, once told Sally he could see Rose standing right there in the room. And Rose, just as strong and stubborn as ever, told them, "Get on with it." That phrase becomes their anchor, a reminder that even when grief feels impossible, life keeps going. Then comes the final round. The stakes couldn't be higher. Joe is up against a bull named Ring of Fire, undefeated, 34 wins and 0 losses. Before the ride, the announcer calls for a moment of silence and prayer for Cody. The entire arena goes quiet. Everyone knows, this is more than a competition. Joe needs to score at least 91 points to beat Billy Hamilton. It's his last chance, his final ride. And against all odds, bruised, broken, and aging, Joe holds on. 8 seconds. The crowd can barely believe it. No one has ever lasted that long on Ring of Fire. But as soon as the buzzer blares, the bull slams him to the ground. The entire stadium goes still. Medical staff rush over. Joe, barely conscious, turns to Charlie and asks, "Did I make it to 8? Charlie smiles. "Yeah, Joe, you did." Joe sighs, like the whole world just got lifted off his shoulders. "Then I'm okay," he whispers. In that moment, he sees Rose again, like she's right there beside him. "We did it, Rose," he tells her softly. "We did it for Cody." The judges post the score, 90 points. Amazing, but just shy of the win. Billy Hamilton holds the top spot with 91.5. Still, Joe's second-place finish comes with $300,000. And thanks to the GoFundMe campaign Jimmy Mack started, donations have poured in too. Together, it's enough to pay for Cody's surgery. But the prize money is only part of what Joe walks away with. The experience brings more than just medical bills and trophies. Joe and Sally find their way back to each other. The rodeo community shows up for them. And Joe finally starts to let go of the guilt he's carried for years about Rose. The surgery goes well. Cody's recovery is slow, but steady. Not long after, he's out on the field again, playing baseball with his grandfather like nothing ever happened. Even Billy Hamilton gives Joe a nod of respect. "Joe can take that second place and $300,000 anytime," he jokes. "As long as I get the $750,000, or even $400,000. Hell, I wouldn't mind beating him again." But there's no ego in it anymore. Just mutual respect. In one of the final scenes, Sally calls Joe Dad instead of Pops. Just one word, but it means everything. The walls between them are down. Joe, true to character, donates the extra money from the fundraiser to the Children's Hospital, turning a personal victory into hope for other families fighting their own battles. The last rodeo isn't just about bulls and championships. It's about second chances. It's about a boy who got another shot at life, a father who got to make things right, a daughter who found forgiveness. It's about having the courage to do the hard things, whether that's getting on a bull or facing the people you've hurt. Joe and Sally's relationship is at the heart of it. Their wounds run deep. His obsession with rodeo glory left Sally to carry responsibilities no kid should. Their reconciliation doesn't erase what happened, but it does show that healing is possible, even after years of silence. Rose's words echo through the story. Get on with it. And that's what they do. Faith is a quiet thread running through it all. Charlie prays for Cody and believes in grace. The rodeo crowd bows their heads in prayer for a boy they've never met. Faith doesn't take over the story. It simply connects everyone, in a way that feels real. Joe's journey isn't just physical, it's spiritual too. He finds peace with his past, with God, and with the man he's become. Charlie Williams, Joe's old bullfighter friend, adds both warmth and depth to the story. He's loyal through and through, coming back into Joe's life without hesitation, standing beside him even when the odds are terrible. Their friendship breaks all the usual molds. Different races, different lives, but what they've shared in that rodeo dirt runs deeper than anything that separates them. There's also something powerful in the way the story stretches across generations. Joe sees himself in Cody, the same spark, the same fearless spirit. And Billy Hamilton, he's the future of the sport. At first, he laughs at Joe, but by the end, he respects him, maybe even learns from him. In that sense, the last rodeo is really about legacy, what we leave behind, both good and bad. Joe's final ride on Ring of Fire becomes a symbol, for every impossible challenge we face. Cody's tumor, Joe's fractured family, their money problems. That bull is all of it. And Joe stays on, not because he's unafraid, but because someone he loves needs him to be brave. Cody's successful surgery closes the loop that tragedy once opened. Rose didn't survive her tumor. Cody did. That difference doesn't erase the past, but it changes the future. It says the story doesn't have to end the same way twice. With enough heart, grit, and yes, even money, Joe has finally found a purpose beyond chasing rodeo titles.